good. So, hey, Jeff, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm glad to be here, Tim.
Absolutely. Good deal. Hey, so I know that you work with athletes primarily, but a lot of what the reason I reached out to you is because so much of what you teach your athletes impacts on folks like myself who are not athletes. So I really appreciate that. Would you first just give a little thumbnail sketch of how you came to work with athletes and what it is about mindset that so captivates you?
Well, it all started with me being an athlete and dealing and being pretty good and struggling with performance anxiety or pressure to perform. And so I went through high school and college, and I struggled a lot with that anxiety to, am I enough, and to prove and to show everybody else. And so when I graduated from college and after wrestling, I realized I wanted to be the guy that I wish I would have had to talk to deal with limiting beliefs and getting in your own way and the anxiety and the doubt that I would feel. Even if I was a great wrestler, I still dealt with the doubt and the fear and the worry and stress all the time. So I wanted to be able to help athletes to be able to deal with that. And so I worked with professional athletes, Olympic athletes on these kind of roadblocks. And what I find is it's the same roadblocks that everybody faces. So it's common everyday roadblocks, the doubts, the story that you're telling yourself. Am I enough? Did I say the right things? What do they think of me? All that boils down to it's every human being. It's not athletes, it's people who are out there living their life and dealing with pressure.
Yeah, and I so get that because I certainly do that. I have, of course, my own inner dialogue, my own narrative going on that I tell myself. Some days I'm a pretty good guy. Other days I'm a real scoundrel. You know,
Right.
it's how life is.
And then you try to perform on those days that you're feeling like a scoundrel or you're telling yourself that you're a scoundrel. And it's like, wow, I'm not going to have a good performance. So it's like, how do you get out of that? How do you change that when you need to change it is the key.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, I know that your work focuses on athletes. I appreciate that. And I know some of the athletes you've worked with, and it's really a tremendous service you offer them. What would you say now? We're all kind of in this common, bind of being told to stay at home. And we're not used to that. You and I are used to seeing each other out networking every week
Right.
and being able to talk face to face, interact, that sort of thing.
Right.
So what do you see as some of the real potential traps or pitfalls now that we're being asked to stay at home? What are some of the things we need to look out for first on the negative side, guard against?
Well, that question answers itself with the number one identifier of depression is when people start to isolate. So now we're kind of being forced to isolate. So that's one of those times when we can muddle over in our head and start going down that spiral and start worrying about this thing, and then it gets bigger and bigger when we are not having our social connections and our outlets and we start like doubting ourselves and we start feeling like we're not enough. Or so now is the time when depression and anxiety, you throw in the instability with our economy and what's happening and the fears of people losing their jobs and all that kind of stuff. Depression and anxiety are going to be high on the list.
So,
Very
so,
high on the list.
so on a practical basis, when we begin to see that, and I think you're absolutely right that all of us are going to have some degree of that, and going a bit stir crazy. I mean, we're only a few days into this, and already the walls are starting to close in just a little bit. What are some practical steps we can do first to maybe recognize that and just come to grips with the fact that, yeah, I'm feeling some tension here, and that's probably normal under these circumstances. And then what are some practical steps, small, big, whatever, that we can take to begin to level out a bit and get on top of this?
Totally. The number one thing is we have opportunity now for social connection. We've got Skype, we've got ways to interact, but you got to be um, proactive in doing that. You've got to reach out to your friends and say, hey, would you mind just talking and Skyping? And by doing that, and you tell them what's going on and the anxieties that you're feeling, you're getting it out. you're feeling depressed, you talk to somebody, talk to a counselor. They're online everywhere. You talk to your friends, you talk to your family. But when we isolate, we're alone. So it's like right now we're being forced to be alone. So I would say call, reach out, talk to people, Skype, Zoom, whatever it takes. But that would probably be one of the biggest things. And the next thing is we have the opportunity to be outside. It's like, take advantage of that. Go get in shape, go out, walk by yourself for 2 or 3 miles, go out and ride your bike, go out and do things where you can still socially distance yourself and stay safe, but get out and do things. And then I think another thing that I've worked with a lot of people on is now is the time you can find that passion or that project or that one thing that you've really wanted to do and to accomplish, and dive into it. Dive in. A lot of people are diving into a Netflix series, and that's not bad. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying if there's a project like you want to redo your basement, or you want to do your floor, you've always wanted to clean out your kitchen cabinet, start finding the projects that are going to allow you to feel good about yourself. I've got several going. I've got a thing called the 14-day Corona Challenge going.
Yeah, so I've seen a bit of that online, and I appreciate it. And I actually saw that a little bit earlier today, and it struck me that, yeah, I need to reach out to Jeff, talk to him about this. So tell me a little bit more about that.
It's just, Damien and I, Coach D and I, were hanging out, and we were thinking about what are we going to do during this time. And now is the ideal time for anybody to improve their mental game, their mental toughness, their mental strength. It's like, now, have you always wanted to learn how to meditate? Have you always wanted to learn how to get into the zone on command? Have you ever wanted to be able to refocus? After you have a bad call or you do something in business that you feel bad about, how do you refocus and get back into the game? How do you build your confidence? You identify your fears and you walk into those fears. So what we've done is we put 14 days together, and we've been videotaping and doing all this as fast as we can because it's like on demand. It's like right now I've got consumed with it and I'm enjoying it so much. It's a hoot.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And honestly, that's part of what motivated me to do this. I've been doing several of these Zoom chats. I was at home, maybe someone like you. I was at home, I was bored, and I thought, what can I do? And this just seems like a way I can connect with folks, get some interaction myself, and draw on folks like you who have some expertise that can be helpful to the wider community.
I love that. I think that's a great thing and a good example of how people can do this. It's like they're being forced to take advantage of the creative side, but you need that socialization. Our number one issue, like alcoholism, goes up, and all kinds of things go up when we're isolating, when we don't feel connected to things.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
Hey, you need to connect more than ever.
Absolutely, you bet. Hey, so let me ask you this. Let me ask you about the importance of, I guess, what I call small victories. I know that at times it's easy, if I get in a negative mindset, everything seems overwhelming. It seems like there's a big task in front of me, and I forget to look at just those small things the steps I can take. Can you talk a little bit about that and about the importance of having those small victories to build from phase to phase?
It's actually, Tim, and that's a great thing. I would like to call it small failures more than I would victories.
Oh, fantastic.
And
tell me about it.
Why is those failures are how we learn and how we go forward. And looking at the small victories, I love that because it's like seeing if you're moving forward. We did a mental toughness video today, and it was Coach D was doing a plank, and he had to hold a plank. And so what we're doing is he had to hold it as long as he could, and then tomorrow he has to try to go longer. And then the next day he has to try to go longer. And then so we're building our mental strength up. And it's like so many people look at winning or losing as our only victory way to measure whether we're successful or not. And it's like there's so many ways to measure success. Those little victories, like, did I do a video today? Did I show up and engage with somebody else? Did I have connection with my spiritual or higher power? Did I? There's lots of different victories that we can have. It's just we got to open ourselves up to um, looking at things other than just winning or losing. It's I can have victories all day long if I look, and I can have failures. And failures are actually the ones that I hope that Tim has, hope that Jeff has. Because when do we learn our biggest lessons?
That's cool. That's very cool. So it sounds like you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying there's maybe some inherent freedom in the fact that we've been forced behind to a new set of circumstances. We're forced behind our closed walls. We can still go out and walk and that sort of thing, but that
Right.
it may offer some freedom to explore in a way that we've maybe been afraid to do prior to now.
You bet. Now is the time to gain some of those skills that you've always wanted to learn. You know, I know so many people that, oh, I've tried to meditate and it doesn't work, and I've tried to slow my mind down and it doesn't work. Dude, you're in the house right now, locked in with nothing else to do. My guess is this would be the opportunity right now to take that mental game to the next level. You know, we all struggle with the doubt. We all struggle with those kinds of things. It's like, what better to do than better ourselves during this time?
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, hey, again, thank you for doing this today.
You bet, Tim.
As we wrap this up, any other last minute, just little tidbits, little pieces of advice that you would give me and other folks who find myself in this situation?
You bet. And this is the same advice I'm giving my athletes. You can take this time and you can choose to be a victim or a victor. You know, it's plain and simple. It's like, what are you going to do with your time that you have to be creative? You can sit around and not do anything, or you can become a victor and overcome some of the challenges that are limiting.
Fantastic. Jeff, thank you so much for doing this today. I appreciate it.
You bet, Tim. I enjoyed it. You have a great day.
Hey, thanks, man. Talk soon.